Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sarah Martin with the Contoured Chemist. Bear with me, I'm still sick if you can't tell from my voice. If you're new here, welcome. This is gonna be a great one. We're talking eyeshadows, one of my favorite subjects ever. And I'm gonna call this my top 5 ways to step up your eyeshadow game. So whether you are brand new to eyeshadow, which I feel like so many of you that come to my channel are brand new and are ready to get started and are wanting to start with Seint eyeshadow, and so you kind of don't know where to start, this video is going to be for you. But if you're a seasoned pro, this is going to give you some great new ideas, especially if you are new to Seint eyeshadows as well. So let's get on with it. If you want to check it out, please keep watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and thanks for being here. All right, friends, I'm gonna try to get through this video without coughing through the whole thing, because that is me right now. Let's get into it. I already have my face completely done. I got a little bold lip going on because I was feeling it with my sweater. But by the end, I'm sure I'll have talked it off enough that I might be able to go a little bolder on my eyes, because I want to do an eyeshadow look as we talk through these 5 ways. All right, so I'm gonna start at the very beginning. Very basics. This is gonna drive me nuts. The things I see the most, or the questions I get, oh my gosh, can I just put my hair back without some random wonky piece? There we go. So all the things that I kind of help customers troubleshoot on the daily when it comes to eyeshadow. All right, so number 1, we're gonna get started. Can you guys guess what it could be? We're gonna talk about primer, base. Why do we use a primer? Why do you need to use a primer? Especially if you're just like, oh, I just wanna throw on one color all over the lid, Sarah. Here is when you do need a primer. Number 1, if you have oily eyelids, okay? Oily eyelids are gonna cause your eyeshadows to crease and wear off super quickly. So if you feel like you are applying eyeshadow, but like within a few hours you can't even see it, or all the colors are kind of muddying up together to where it looks just like one color when you applied multiple, you most likely need an eyeshadow primer. Number 2, you have mature eyelids like I do. We have lots of creases and folds and crepiness. The more creases we have naturally on our eyes, the more your eyeshadows are gonna be prone to creasing. It sucks. I'll be honest. I don't feel like I had to prep my lids like I do now back in the day when I was really into eyeshadow in my 20s. But alas, here we are. And there are different methods I will go into to find one that works for you. But if you have a lot of creases, then you're gonna naturally crease more, okay? Number 3 is if you just plain feel like your eyeshadow does not last. So you might not have super oily eyelids, but there's something there that is causing your eyeshadow to not stay. Whether it's you're putting something else on your lid, whether you are priming with, say, our 3D creams on your lids, that can cause longevity issues if you're not setting it properly or not doing this right kind of steps in order to increase your wear time. I was actually just having this conversation this morning with a girl on my team. She was asking, because she got asked by a client, why we prime our eyes but not our face when it comes to 3D foundation. And what I told her was that, first of all, our eyelid skin is so 100% different than the skin on our face. It's not even in the same ballpark. This is the thinnest skin anywhere on our body is on our lids, okay? And I think that's why, even if like you're like me and you're not oily at all. I'm not oily. I'm completely normal and balanced after years of skincare. And my eyelids are oily. So your skin type does not mean your eyelid skin type, okay? Those are not equal. So you could have really oily eyelids naturally and your skin isn't, and you're fine. Now with Seint 3D foundation, I always say if you've tried the makeup and you're still feeling oily, if you're naturally oily, then that's when I recommend like an oil blocking primer. That is the only time I recommend a primer with our foundation, is if you're super oily. Otherwise, it's designed, you don't need a primer. But our eyes are a completely different story. The skin type is different. You might be oily, might need to block that oil production. And not everyone uses the highlights on their eyes. There's a difference between applying eyeshadow directly to the lid and between applying creams directly to the skin on our face and not needing a primer. So very different. Trust me, an eyeshadow primer is a game changer when you find one that works for you. So that being said, I always tell my clients, not all eyeshadow primers are equal. I'm telling you, I've tried a lot of drugstore, and there are really good drugstore products out there. I will not lie. They're definitely hit or miss. You definitely have to go based on reviews or search and search and search. But I have tried a lot of eyeshadow primers, and I have yet to ever find one that comes close to high-end, or this is the cheapest one I've ever found. It's an Amazon one. So for years I used MAC paint pots. These are technically not designed as an eyeshadow primer, although you'll see makeup artists use them all the time. And the reason why is because it can kind of color correct. They're just long wear paint pots, meaning they are cream eyeshadow, but they tend to dry down and kind of set, unlike our cream makeup. Does that make sense? So Painterly and Soft Ochre are the two closest to, you know, skin tones that I feel like work for most people. But I'll be honest, I don't feel like it color corrected enough for me. But again, my eyes are color corrected right now. I will show you what they look like when they're not. But I have very thin eyelid skin. The entire area around my eyes are mostly, I color correct due to being able to see the veins through my skin. So it depends on how much color correction you need. Okay, so when I take off anything I applied, I have a lot of blue and purple tones. Now, the reason why I want to remove those before my eyeshadow is because guess what? That's going to affect the way any color looks on my eyes. I would have to apply a whole lot of a color to completely balance and color correct that. Most likely, it almost looks like when you can see the veins through your eyeshadow, it just looks like your eyeshadow isn't blended. It looks like you've got multiple colors going on, and it just doesn't give you that nice clean canvas to start with, that nice clean look to where when you put on eyeshadow, you can easily blend out any kind of color discrepancy, right? So there are primers on the market that will color correct at the same time. This one just doesn't work great for me anymore now that I have mature eyes, but in my 20s, this is all I used. So again, you have to do a little trial and error and find one that works for you. But the number one thing I would say, if when I get clients to come to me and they tell me, well, I am using a primer and I am correcting and I am setting it and I'm still getting creasing. And usually the first question I ask is, okay, in the mornings, are you washing your eyelids? And I know it sounds like a weird question, but overnight is when our skin is gonna like produce the most amount of oil. All of that oil kind of comes to the surface as our skin is kind of regenerative overnight, right? So when you wake up in the morning, you will have excess oil on your face. Even if your face is not oily, I bet you $100 your eyelids will be a little bit oilier than the rest of your face at least. So every morning without fail, now I'm a lash lover, so I can't just wash my whole face. I strategically always clean around my eyes. So whether that is with some kind of like micellar, really just gentle wipe, I use these around my eyes, or I use a micellar water to remove any excess oil. So this is the one I always use before my lashes. This is the one I like to use on my face. Doesn't matter, they're all gonna remove that excess oil around your eyes and give you that nice clean area to start with. So then when you apply your primer on your eyes, there's not gonna be any oil. So this is almost like, think of it like an oil blocker, right? If you have oil on your eyes already and then you put this down, guess what? That oil is gonna be able to seep through. This will keep it at bay longer. Okay, so I always tell people you have to experiment with the kind of primer and also the amount you're applying. So I really like this Urban Decay one. I think this is the anti-aging one, which doesn't hurt, right? But it's about double the price of this one. I've been using this one for years. One of them lasts me so long, and I feel like I get the exact same wear time as with this. But again, if you've tried this, it doesn't work for you, maybe try Urban Decay. They're kind of known in the beauty industry for having the best eyeshadow primer. So Primer Potion is kind of like a cult favorite. So I use this, and they do have some colored versions that might kind of correct enough for you. They don't really correct enough for me, for my liking. So I just go with this one. It's nice and clear, and, or not clear, but it's colorless. How about that? So that's about how much I use per eye. Doesn't take much for me. Now I like to use my finger, but if you like to use a brush, I would recommend the multitasker. You just want to be able to use something that allows you to make sure you get all the way down to the lash line, all the way up to the brow. I like to kind of tap it on, and then with my fingertip, I truly can feel that I have got that cream across my entire lid, and I haven't missed a spot. You guys know me, I'm a little bit of a control freak when it comes to my makeup. I want to be able to do everything as quickly and as efficiently as possible. My finger does the job. I don't have to worry about cleaning a brush. And with a brush, I can miss a spot. With my finger, I don't. So there are other eyeshadow primers, different types that you can get into once you do the actual application method. And I feel like they are best in the middle of application. So I'm gonna go ahead and prime with something like this, and then I will correct and set. Then if you're in the middle of application and you say, oh, I'm gonna wear a glitter today, there are glitter primers, okay? There's also, say you are applying a color to your lid and it's not giving you enough color payoff, meaning it's not as bright or as bold or as shimmery as you really want it to, you can even use something like this white primer, okay? By canceling out that lid space with white, it's gonna make the eyeshadow color look more true to color. So it's gonna show the color way more because, you know, here it's the color of your lid is going to change the color slightly from the actual color in the 10. So hopefully that makes sense. NYX is some of my favorites as far as those specialty primers go. So I want to get rid of all of these little veins. I want a nice clean base. I'm gonna take a small brush because I just want it to be able to fit into those areas of my eyes. I like to use my foundation brush because usually I'm already applying my makeup with it and I can just go into my highlight. So I do take very little. Okay, so when I'm using highlight on my eyes, if I don't use a primer first and I just try to use a highlight as a base, which I have seen some people recommend, I would have creasing in less than an hour, okay? Remember, our creams don't set. They don't set. So if you are prone to creasing or have oily eyelids, I don't recommend this at all. If you have mature eyes, the highlights can correct, don't get me wrong, but you're gonna have to make sure you're still using some kind of primer, and then you're gonna set them, which is the next step, okay? If you don't set this, your eyeshadows will crease, okay? Because creams don't set on their own. Our creams don't. So I'm using the smallest amount. Like, I don't know if you can even see it. It's probably even too much. And I'm just going to use my color corrector because this is gonna get rid of the blue and purple and help even out, okay? Just a touch. Then I'm gonna go ahead and use the same amount in my main shade. Okay, this is Sandy. So Mango, Sandy, the same colors I use on my face. And I'm just gonna make sure my eyelid's not being pulled too warm, and suddenly it's a nice even canvas, and I can go in and set that so it doesn't move. Okay, so when it comes to setting, you will have to, again, trial and error, guys. Everyone's eyes are different, just like everyone's skin is different. So you're gonna have to try it and see if you can even use a highlight on your eyes. Some people might not be able to even with this method. Okay, so I am going to use my powder to set it. Now, I do use the Vanilla Dust, which is a very finely milled powder. Okay, so if you've never tried our Vanilla Dust, it's extremely finely milled. That means it's a translucent powder. It's not super heavy. It's not gonna absorb a whole lot of oil. If you have very oily eyelids, I would probably recommend going in with something heavier. Loose powders usually on their own are just a lot heavier of a powder. Like me, for example, I can't use these under my eyes. They make me look older. But if I truly wanted a fully matte look, I'm gonna go in with a loose powder, not this. So if you have a lot of oil, if you're an oily girl and your eyes are just as oily as your face and you need a loose powder on your face, most likely you're gonna need a loose powder on your eyes as well. So then you wanna go in generously with a loose powder, and I would probably recommend something almost like a powder puff, so you can really get in there and press it on, okay? Powder truly is not something I feel like you wanna just kind of sweep all over the lid. For this method, really, when you're trying to set every facet of your eye, you really wanna press it on or sweep it on so that you aren't missing any areas. Because if you have one spot in the middle of your lid that you missed and did not set with powder, what's gonna happen when you go in with eyeshadow? That eyeshadow color is gonna stick right to the sticky part. So that is the highlight or the primer that you just put on that is sticky, okay? The reason we set is because our highlights don't set, and because these are cream-based, meaning you're not gonna get a nice blend over something sticky and tacky. It's going to kind of stick and look patchy. So if that's an issue that you're having, all it will take is a little bit of powder. So when I go in with powder under my eyes, you guys know I'm very strategic. I barely touch it, okay? Because I want less is more. When it comes to our eyelids, more is more. I swipe in, look how much powder that picks up. Okay, this is a very dense brush. And then I go in and I press it on, and then I sweep it all the way from the inside corner to the lash line, all the way up to the brow, okay? You should be able to feel your eyelid and be like, there is nothing sticky or tacky on my lid. It's completely been powdered, set, locked, and loaded, right? So now when I go in with my eyeshadow, I know I'm gonna get a great blend. It's not gonna stick to anything because I have powdered that area. So hopefully that makes sense. Again, if I skip this step, I'll immediately have creasing, and I am not gonna like my eyeshadow. Now, when we get to different application techniques, if you are gonna use something like a glitter primer, that's why I say these are more like in the middle of application, because these are very different. You're not gonna be sweeping and trying to blend off of a white primer or a sticky glitter primer. These are tacky, meaning they're designed to just pick up that product, and your eyeshadow is just gonna be pressed onto it for a lot of color payoff, no blend. Does that make sense? So you're not going to be blending out a glitter eyeshadow. You're just trying to stick it to the sticky primer. So those are best for middle of application, and the other ones are going to give you that base. Those are definitely not base eyeshadow primer. Okay, so now we have a nice base going on. We are ready to go in with eyeshadow, and one of the number one questions I always get asked, so this is going to be part of number 2. So we already got our base primer done. We are ready to have all day wear, no creasing, okay? So people always ask, do you do your face or your eyes first? And I'll be honest, I used to think it was just a personal preference thing, but the longer I've been an artist, I realize it's not so much personal preference. Now it is a little bit, but for me personally, I make the decision based on the eyeshadow look, okay? So I feel like it goes in with the rest of number 2, which is knowing the eyeshadow. But for example, if you are doing any eyeshadow look with these type of colors that are dark, really dark, like a smoky eye, a dramatic eye, dark colors, and you're gonna be applying a lot of it, like I'm not just talking about a little bit as liner, I'm talking about a lot of darkness, you are gonna be more prone to fallout, right? And you're gonna be more prone to that like black fallout, okay? So our cream makeup is great because most of the time you can just kind of wipe it away and it doesn't disturb your makeup very much. But if you're doing a lot of black or really dark gray, the smoky stuff, I always will do my eyes and then my face, because even if those dark colors, you try to wipe them away and it's going to shadow your makeup. It's going to make you look like you have raccoon eyes. The number one thing I hear from clients about smoky eyes is I have raccoon eyes. So do your eyes first, clean it up, then you can strategically smoke out the bottom lash line once you have the rest of your makeup on, and you're not going to get that darkness here that's going to make you feel like a raccoon, okay? So the other one is, can you guys guess? When I'm using a shadow that's the opposite, glitter, or the super shimmery ones that we have that are like practically glittery. They're not glitter shadows, but they look like it on me. So every time I try to wear a shadow like that, like look at that. I just wiped it on a towel, don't mind my dirty towel, and look at the chunks. It's not, like that is literally the shadow. It's not the same as some of our shimmers. So if you have a shadow and you love it, and you know it's one of those chunkier shimmers that are gonna fall out and make you look older under here, apply it first. Do your eyes first. Use a wipe, clean up underneath your eyes, then do your makeup. That way you can enjoy your shade. Once it's placed and stuck, it's not gonna fall. But as you're applying, these colors are just prone to falling out, okay? The other thing is if I'm doing Demi, okay? So if I know I'm gonna wear Demi under my eyes, I like to do my eyes first. For one, if I do my eyes first, I feel like I need to correct less around my eyes because I naturally have a lot of purple along my lash line. But you guys see, I always halo along my lash line, mostly to kind of correct and disguise those purple tones, right? But when I do Demi around my eyes before, first of all, it will take me twice as long because I will be worrying about all of these areas that once I have eyeshadow on, I'm not gonna notice. And second of all, if I have eyeshadow fallout and I'm wearing Demi under my eyes, it's not like 3D to where you can just kind of wipe or kind of just go like this and kind of just get it off. Demi is a much more strategic application, right? So if you have fallout and you wipe, you might be wiping off all your coverage. It's harder to kind of go around it, if that makes sense. It's gonna be harder, especially if you have the sparkly shades like that, just do your eyes first. It'll take you less time to do your demi, and you won't have to worry about wiping off any of your under eye coverage. Because anyone that's learned demi with under eyes are kind of hard for demi when you're first starting. You know what I'm talking about. Once you get them done, you don't want to touch them, right? Okay, so along with number 2, knowing when to do your face and eyes first, I feel like you have to know the formulation, which goes into knowing how to pick it up on the brush. All of those things, in my opinion, are completely related and play a huge part about how I do my makeup. So you get a new eyeshadow. Don't just take my word for it. Oh, Sarah said this was a shimmer, okay? First of all, know that there are many different kinds of formulations. I feel like our website is deceiving. I've said that before. Don't ever go by the website. If you have a question over a shadow, just ask me. That's what I'm here for. I do have a lot of different videos and resources. I will link my eyeshadow resource down below that kind of help you out. But know that we have glitters, which are legit glitters, okay? We only have 4, but do know there are glitters. Don't accidentally buy one if you don't want a glitter. It's legit just glitter. That is all the pigment. The pigment, there is no pigment. It's just glitter, straight glitter. They're really beautiful in the 10, but it's not like a eyeshadow that just has specks of glitter in it. It's pure glitter, okay? So glitter is on one side of the spectrum. Obviously mattes are on the other, no shimmer whatsoever, okay? This is Cupcake, which is just a non-translucent form of vanilla dust or powder, okay? So this one is actually opaque, okay? So we have our mattes. Then we have what I like to call slightly shimmery, okay? This is, do you see how it just barely picks up the light? That is Rome. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention that silver glitter was Shenandoah. I never use that, so I never say that. Shenandoah, is that how you say it? Rome is one of our examples of just barely shimmery. Now, if you look at the website, though, it's just shimmer or matte. There is no in between. Glitters are, I believe, in another category, but there's creams, glitters, mattes, and shimmers. That's it. But I'm telling you, there is differences in our level of shimmers. Okay, so this one is Sabrina. It's much more shimmery. The one that I just had on the towel is also a shimmer. That's Riviera. No, it's not, just kidding. The one that I just had on a towel is Angel's Landing, okay? Those all 3 are all considered shimmers. But in my opinion, they're very different. Whereas one is kind of brightening, okay? It really kind of reflects light. One barely catches light, and one practically looks like a glitter, okay? So first thing I recommend when you get a new shadow is to swatch it, okay? Put it on your hand. Really see how it falls out. Really play with it. I know that sounds weird, but like this is a super shimmery one. This is Soulmate. I consider this way more shimmery than even Sabrina that I just had on, okay? But less shimmery than Angel's Landing, that glittery one that when you put on, look, it's more of a chunky shimmer. And then you have to kind of build it up to get that color payoff. And as you build it up, these chunks almost come off a little bit. So that's why it leads to fallout. They're very different in terms of formulation. I'm going to be covered in glitter the rest of the day. Just a couple that I feel like are even in between Rome and Sabrina, that it's like on Wednesday. Is it a matte or a shimmer? I can't even remember how it's classified. I'm pretty sure it's classified as a matte, right? Or is it a shimmer? It almost it doesn't have shimmery particles in it. It just has a sheen. So if you know other makeup brands, usually this is considered a satin when it has a sheen to it and doesn't actually have shimmer in it that I feel like London is very similar, although on the eye, it tends to look very matte, and I feel like most people consider it a matte. I also feel like when they redid the formulas a while ago, it changed slightly. So if you have an old one, it was a little bit more of a satin, and now it feels more matte to me. Know that there's different shimmers. Know that the shimmier it is, the more shimmery, like Angel's Landing, the harder it is for mature eyes like me to wear it, okay? When I wear it, I use this. It's the only way I can keep it right where I want it, so it's not gonna fall here and increase the look of texture around my eyes that I naturally have. Now, otherwise, I'm all for shimmer with mature eyes. I feel like it's all in placement on the eye and the type of shimmer you're wearing. As long as you keep it out of your trouble zones, and everybody might have different ones, but for me personally, I can't do lower lash line. Inside corner, I have to keep towards the actual tear duct. If it touches right here, it ages me 10 years, okay? I can wear it here on the inside corner and the lid is fine, but any mature eyes or hooded eyes, I do not ever recommend a shimmer on your hood or in your crease. That is where we have the most texture as we age, and it immediately will make your eyelids look more textured. So shimmery shades kind of increase the texture. They reflect light, right? It's just kind of like our skin and pores. So the more shimmer, I can't say that word today, guys. It's my voice. The more shimmery it is, the more it's gonna draw attention to the natural texture of your skin, okay? So we want to almost make those creases and crevices and texture recede, go to the background, look like a shadow, give depth to our eyes, but we do not want that light to reflect and for it to look enhanced. That's not our goal, right? And so that's why you will see when I go to apply, we keep the darker shade here on the crease, on the hood, to make that recede and to also reduce the look of texture. Know the formulation, okay? The darker you go with a shimmer, the darker the shimmer, the actual less it will emphasize the amount of texture, because dark colors do recede. It's not as obvious. Now, I still don't recommend any of these colors up here on the hood, but sometimes I will wear these in the outside corner and I don't see any increase of texture. But if you were to put a light color there, oh, it'd be a different story, okay? Because the light reflects more, and there's a big difference between a dark shimmer showing texture and a light shimmer. You see that? I mean, dark shimmers just don't reflect light, they absorb light, okay? Oh, I forgot to show you guys, there's also cream shadows. Now, I don't talk about the cream shadows a whole lot, I'll be honest. I use them mainly for liner. There are 4. One is super light and you can use it to highlight. And then I love both of these shades. And then we also have a bright blue one that is great for liner. But these on me personally will crease. Even with all the methods I use, I'd still then have to put over a shadow over it, which changes the color of it. And you know, it can be used as a base, but if you're lucky enough that you can just pop on a color all over the lid, especially one of these creams, and not have to set it, I'd be wearing these every day. So this is Spiced in Arabian Night. I really like this one as a liner. I use this as a liner too. They're both gorgeous colors. This is my go-to if I want like a brown eyeliner. I'll use this, and sometimes I also set it with a powder, but I have to still set them unless I use them as a liner. Then I usually don't set them, but as an eyeshadow, I have to top it with another eyeshadow, which is just an extra step. Kind of depends on the look you're going for. So, know the formulation. Once you know the formulation, it's really gonna help you to know what brush to choose and how to pick it up on the brush. And I find this is probably one of the easiest ways to improve your eyeshadow game. It's simply either using the wrong brush in the wrong way for the type of color you're using, or it's how you're picking it up on the brush. And you usually, what I see from experience, is people applying way too much to begin with. Okay, so I'm gonna show you. Let's just go with my Ride or Die Sedona, because I hopefully will be able to correct it. Okay, so here is Sedona, and you guys, I'll go into colors here in a minute, but we have 1, 2, 3, we have 4 eyeshadow brushes, okay? The line brush is pretty much just liner and brows, okay? The multitasker brush can be used for the full face, but usually this small end is liner or brightener. And then this is the only brush we have that is truly going to be good glitters or the cream shadows. I use this a lot as liner or to smudge out the like Black Friday eyeliner, but this is the best brush to pick up anything super glittery, okay? So if you are picking up a glitter or Angel's Landing, one of those super chunky shimmers with a shade like this, and are wondering why you have so much fallout and it's hard to apply, a shade like that, you've got to pack it on, which means you need the most dense brush, and you never want to floof it. I call this floofing, okay? This is the brush if you're wanting the most color or the most shimmer to show up. You want to pack it on. So when I'm talking pack it, here's what I mean, okay? This is a shimmery shade. This is Sis, okay? I know it's super shimmery because guess what? I've swatched it a million times. I know that it's going to be very shimmery, okay? It can give a little fallout, but it can all be avoided when you use the right brush. Now, if I was to use this brush, I don't know if you could see it falling out, okay? And pick it up. Can you even see it? Literally cannot even see it, okay? A brush like this is the eyeshadow brush, is great for, it's technically a blending brush, okay? It's meant to blend, and usually when we're using a shimmer, we're not blending, we're not really blending out a shimmer. Shimmers, you tend to want more pigmentation, more shimmer payoff, right? Unless you're just doing a wash over another color to add some shimmer, you're not gonna be using a brush like this to pick up a shimmer shadow. It's not gonna do much. You're not gonna see much color, okay? This brush is designed for transition shades. It's a blending brush. It's meant for in the crease, up above the crease, to give a nice blend. So I've got a light shimmery shade. I'll go into categories in a minute, but I know that this shade is light. I believe it's a 2, which means it's gonna be on the lid, or I'm gonna use it to brighten. So I'm gonna pick it up with a brush that is going to pick it up easily, okay? So when I'm picking it up, I'm not just swiping in, I am pressing in and I'm loading my brush. Do you see that? Okay, now, anytime you're loading your brush, what's the first thing you do? Tap off excess. If you're not tapping off excess, and you're going in with a color and you're getting fallout every time you do your makeup, it's just because you've got too much loaded on the brush at one time. You're not tapping. You can always go in with more product, guys. You can always go in with more color and easily build up color. But once you put it on your eye, it's hard to take it away. It just has to be blended more. So one of the biggest mistakes I see is people going in with too much. And usually this is their crease or transition shade. I want you guys to see the difference between this. I'm not gonna tap off. I'm just gonna run it on the eye. Okay, now I'm gonna use my brush cleaning tile and get off excess. Wow, I just got eyeshadow everywhere. Okay, now let me show you how I recommend picking up a transition shade, your number 4 shade, whatever it might be, your mid-tone matte, to carve out your crease and really contour your eye. You're gonna take your eyeshadow brush, you're going to gently tap, tap, tap. Not with much pressure, tap off excess, okay? And then you're going to look in your mirror, your camera, whatever it might be, okay? And if you have hooded eyes like me, I want you to look and I want you to close your eye, okay? Open it, see exactly where you're gonna be needing to place that color. If you can't open one eye and leave the other one open like I can, then you're gonna have to place and then open your eye, or you're gonna have to look down into your mirror so that you can make sure you can see that color when your eye is open. Do you see that? Now, do you see how very little I went in with? Guess what? Just tap in for more, okay? Slowly build up color. This way you are strategic with where you're putting it. You can see and you can stop when you have enough. Okay, so I am just kind of windshield wipering it back and forth. That way I can get the majority color on this outside edge up above my eye. Okay, so that it's opening up my eye, pushing that hood back, okay? Giving my eye more dimension and shape. But then I can have a nice blend so I don't have all this color in here, which will close off my eye. Do you see that there? Does that, I mean, that does not look good, right? You want to have a nice, easy blend. The more product you apply to begin with, guess what? The more you're gonna have to blend and the more work you have to do. So even though that might be fast to just throw it on like that, you're gonna spend twice as long, if not longer than that, blending it out to where it looks good. Whereas you could have just been a little bit more patient, be a little bit more strategic with your placement and with your application, and you won't have to worry about blending. Guess what? It blends as you apply. You're not just slapping it on and then blending later, okay? And I like this method because guess what? I can just keep going until I'm happy with the color. I can just keep being like, okay, how dark do I really want this shade to go? And that way I can kind of start a little bit lighter. I can go in with a darker or a lid shade and finish up the rest. And I can go back into that crease color and build up if I need to, if I need help blending. It's all just giving me a little bit more options, okay? So if I do this method, it doesn't mean it can't be saved, but I'm probably gonna need help with my magic eraser colors. So let's go over the last brush real quick. So, and that way I can show you guys each one. So the last one is the smudge brush, okay? Now this is a dense brush, but you can tell it's still got a lot of bristles, right? So it's still kind of fat. It's not this nice thin brush. So this end is kind of domed and this end is more flat, but still pretty wide, okay? So there's a lot of different ways you can use this brush, but I use this to press on color. But if I have a really pigmented or really shimmery shade, I'm not gonna use this brush. It's not my first choice, but I can use this flat end. Now this rounded end was a game changer for me. You guys have heard me say it time and time again, probably for my outer corner. It just fits and it allows me to press really easily. Now this brush is not a floofy brush. This is a pressing brush, okay? This brush will really press on and blend at the same time. This end, not so much, but you can use this like as a flat end to kind of press on the color. Or I like to use this brush, this end, press it on and then flip it around, keep this side clean and blend with it, okay? So one of my biggest tips for anyone using eyeshadow is whatever you like to blend with, have 2 of them, okay? So I like to apply with one eyeshadow brush. Then if I need help blending, like I'm going to over here, I have a clean one, okay? And this one's always clean. And if you don't have 2, then I highly recommend having shadow switcher or even having our brush cleaner handy since it dries immediately, because sometimes you just use a really dark shade and this even isn't getting all the color off and you really need help blending. Blending with a dirty brush is just gonna muddy up and make all your colors mixed together. But a clean brush is magical, okay? So there you go. Pick the right brush for the formulation type. Mattes are usually gonna be with this brush because mattes are usually a wash or they're usually blending, and mattes are a little bit harder to blend, right? Like you usually use those as your transition shades or outer corners. So I usually like to blend or apply with the eyeshadow brush for matte shades or press them on with the smudge brush, blend it out with the other end. Comes to shimmers, I mostly always just use the multitasker brush unless I'm doing a wash of shimmer over the lid as like a last step after the rest of my eyes are already done. Again, cream shadows will be the multitasker, super glittery shades. I think I hit them all. So number 3 is blending. Blending is one of the most important things about eyeshadow. I think we can all agree with that. So when you apply too much like this, it's just gonna make you have to blend more, right? We can all agree to that. Okay, so one of the things we're gonna just go right into as we're blending this out and applying more, we're gonna go into picking shades, because one of the shades I recommend for all people is your magic eraser, okay? And you guys have probably heard me say this before, but either vanilla dust powder or cupcake, which is literally the same color, just more pigmentation. We've got chai, pup, or stay golden. I'd say these are probably the 3 most used as this method. If you have darker skin tone, it might be more like in the basic category, but lighter skin tone, maybe more towards cupcake instead. But chai is my perfect magic eraser. This is a color, practically the color of my skin tone. Okay, my hands are super white because they don't self-tan, but you guys get the point. It's gonna help you blend, okay? I'm gonna go in with my clean brush first. I'm not gonna use chai until I need it. And first of all, you see how like, oh my gosh, the texture. Okay, first of all, we're gonna do small circles and we're gonna kind of try to move the product to where we want it. So I'm gonna kind of try to pull it down a little bit on this outer corner. I'm gonna try to blur these edges that I see creasing and crepiness. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and already get off excess. Okay, don't forget your fingers are great tools as long as they're clean. I don't think I've used this for swatching. Okay, so inside corners are one things that I can't stand. If there's darkness, it just makes me look like I did not color correct my veins. and it makes my eyes look smaller. So we're gonna blend that out, help kind of remove some of that product, and slowly kind of pull this back to where we want. So windshield wiper, small circles, and not so bad. I feel like I don't really even need my magic eraser shade, but I feel like I got a little bit too much there still. So back to the brush cleaning tile. I'm gonna go in a little bit to chai, just to kind of clean that up. Okay, picking shades is, I feel like, partly practical. This is practical, okay? Having a brightener is practical. Everyone needs to be able to brighten their eyes. You don't need 5 of them, but I always suggest having at least one #1 shade. So if you have not seen my category video, the quickest rundown on the face of the earth, okay? 1 is a highlight shade. All these are highlights. They're shimmery, they're gonna catch light, they're gonna brighten the inside corner, under the brow, or you can kind of dust them on the lid to add some shimmer. 2 shades, or 1 darker. They can be matte or they can be shimmery. Again, inside corner or all over the lid. 3 shades, 1 darker than that. Mostly lid colors, because that means they're darker than our skin tone. Here are a bunch of 1s, 2s, 3s. Okay, now we're starting to get into 4s. So 4 categories is the only category that no matter what, it's a matte. 4s are always what I call a mid-tone matte. Those are our transition shades. Those are going to be dark enough to create shadow on our eye. We're gonna be able to use those to carve out the crease, contour our eyes, and use them on our hood to make that recede. And then 5 are those deep dark shades. Those are usually liners or outer corner colors, and they can be matte or shimmery. So if you don't know, the website is deceiving from how the colors look online. Again, I already went over shimmer is not a shimmer. They can vary, and so this is kind of my method I came up with to help you guys pick colors based on their category. I have them all labeled. My eyeshadow resource is linked down below if you want to sign up for that. It's just an email with a lot of the eyeshadow tutorials I've done to help you get started with Seint and understand our eyeshadows, all the swatches, all the things. So you can request that in the drop box below the video if you are needing help. But I always tell people there's certain shades that we are drawn to. I would say a lot of those are these 3 shades, okay? They're beautiful, they're shimmery, they're fun colors. We're drawn to the pretty shimmers, right? But then we all really need a good amount of these practical colors, okay? A brightener, a magic eraser shade, these colors that we can easily pop in our crease and add that dimension to our eyes that a shimmer will never give us. The fun colors will never give us. If we try to just use those as one color, one and dones, it's not gonna do anything for our eye. It's just usually gonna make us look older. So our collections need to be a good amount of our practical shades to where we have those key shades. Those key neutral shades they're usually neutrals, right? And they're not as fun to pick out browns or whatever, but we need those in order to have a complete eye look and to give us options with our fun shimmers, okay? And then preference. So those colors you're drawn to, tone you're drawn to. So I've also done a video on cool versus warm, and that resource is in there as well. But some people, what do you feel good at? Do you prefer your eyes more on the cool side or the warm side? If you're not new here, you probably know that I believe you can wear any color, but it's all in what you're pairing it with and what creates balance. So I'm a big believer that you can wear a warm shade, even if you think you can't, but it's just what you pair it with. And if you pair it with something cool and it balances itself, you're good. And then you'll like it. But sometimes it's hard to know what colors to pair with what. So I have that in that resource as well. some of my cool and warm tones, and also some good 2 eyeshadow combos with both that will balance your look. But I still get on the daily, Sarah, what should I start with? Okay, you can go based on eye color. I have that in there as well. You can just go based on, I like purples, okay? I find the biggest issue people have is saying, oh, I got all these purple shades, but then I put them on and they all just go together and look like one color. So I feel like there is a fine line between, okay, I know I like purple, so I'm gonna pick all purples. Because what did I just say? We need that balance, okay? So purple is cool. You most likely need something a little bit warmer to pair with it so that when you're putting, for example, this is one of the colors I see the most. When you're putting a shade like Bend and Snap all over the lid, and you're also drawn to the purple mid-tone matte we have, that when you're blending them out, suddenly I'm just wearing one color all over. If you pick all the colors in the same color family, you're gonna get that, it looks like one color all over my lid, okay? Give that balance. One of my favorite combos is just going in with the Bend and Snap and the color I have on my lid right now, Sedona, okay? It's not crazy, but it gives enough contrast. You can see the difference between the two. This one will carve out your crease, and this one gives that shimmer and color to the lid. So you have a nice balanced look with just 2 shades, and you're not getting that muddy all over one color. It looks like my whole lid is purple. Into application methods, once you've kind of narrowed down some colors, sometimes it's down to, okay, what are you wanting? Are you wanting to use one color all over the lid? Are you wanting to use 2? Are you wanting to step it up to go to 3 or 4? Gotta experiment with application methods. Look at some options of, okay, if I want to do one color, like I said, a shimmer is not your best bet. Those colors that make the best one color all over the lids are actually sometimes not even the fun ones. They're these, okay? They add definition, they add color, and they contour out our eyes, but they're not always those fun shimmer shades, because those won't actually do anything for your eye here. They're just gonna make us look older, right? So something like Sedona or Bubba are amazing one color shades, but that's usually not what people are thinking when they're using them. 2 shades we just went over. You wanna look for contrast. Shimmer on the lid and a matte in the crease is an easy go-to. There's definitely different ways you can apply them, but that one is a no-fail as long as they're not too close to one another. Okay, I'm gonna link below a video I've done that's showing application method based on category, location on the eye, different techniques that you can have fun with, experiment, and try. There are lots of different methods, but once you know the basics, you can try it with the colors you have. So I'm gonna show you real quick how I do a 3 or 4 color look, which is my basic go-to. It sounds like it's complicated, but it's super simple. I use the exact same technique every time with the colors I want for the look. So I'm just going to use that mid-tone matte, that 4 shade, and pop it into the crease, carve out my eye, contour it out, make my hood recede. Second color is just gonna be a fun pop of shimmer on the lid, something that's going to give enough contrast to whatever I'm using in the crease. Third shade is gonna be outer corner color or liner, and then that last color is just going to be that pop of brightness in the inside corner or under the brow. You're just gonna finish the look with whatever your preference is for eyeliner. Have fun with it. Finishing touches can make or break a look. Add some liner, add some mascara, out your liner, do a wing. There's so many different possibilities. So there you go. I'm gonna finish up the video by showing you a little look inspired by my sweater. What else? Because I love to pick my eye looks based on what I'm wearing and switch it up on the daily. Okay, friends, there you go. There's the finished eye look and all of the details. I hope that was helpful. If you're needing a color match or needing help with your eyeshadow game, don't forget to check out the resource linked below. You can just click on that link and request it and it will be emailed to you, or my color match request is in the drop box below as well. I'd be happy to help you out with your 3D foundation or your Demi Colour. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Love you guys. See you next week.